کنوانسیون ایران آزاد 2025 در ششمین سالگرد قیام آبان. نقشه مسیر جمهوری دموکراتیک در ایران. واشنگتن 24 آبان 1404.
سفیر کارلا سانز: شورای ملی مقاومت ایران یک تئوری یا یک اپوزیسیون روی کاغذ نیست. یک دولت در انتظار است که توسط جنبشی حمایت می شود که زندان، اعدام، تروریسم و تبعید را دوام آورده و با این حال قوی تر از همیشه ایستاده است. هیچ مسیری برای آینده ایران از طریق نوعی دیکتاتوری وجود ندارد. نه حفظ بخشی از حکومت دینی حاکم و نه بازگشت سلطنت. مردم ایران 46 سال پیش دیکتاتوری تحت حاکمیت شاه را رد کردند و به آن باز نخواهند گشت. آن فصل از تاریخ بسته شده است. ایران عمامه را با تاج معاوضه نخواهد کرد. اشرف سه یک نمونه زنده از آن چیزی است که مقاومت ایران وقتی از خشونت رژیم رها باشد قادر به انجام آن است. مانند اشرف سه، آینده ایران کثرت‌گرا، مدرن و ریشه‌دار در ارزش‌های جهانی است. تنها انقلابی که در خاورمیانه توسط زنان رهبری می شود مقاومت ایران است.
President-elect Maryam Rajavi, your leadership continues to guide this movement. I am honored to speak here today with you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Distinguished guests, activists, members of the Iranian American community, and all those joining us today online, it's a privilege to be with you at this truly historic gathering. And this isn't just a convention. This is the demonstration of a political reality that the Iranian people not only reject dictatorship, but already have a democratic alternative capable of replacing it. I've stood with this movement before in the front of the United Nations in New York and earlier this year in Rome, where I spoke on a panel at the International Free Iran Summit 2025, a summit where Mrs. Maryam Rajavi delivered the keynote address. And I say this with full confidence. The National Council of Resistance of Iran is not a theory. It is not an opposition on paper. It is a government in waiting, backed by a movement that has survived prison, executions, terrorism, and exile, and yet stands stronger than ever. We just heard the battle cry for this movement in the beautiful music just played. And we're no longer in the phase of the regime asking if we're no longer in the phase of asking if this regime will change. No, the regime is losing control. We are now in the phase of highlighting the force for change and determining who is prepared to lead the nation when it does. Inside Iran, the regime is hanging young protesters, it's executing political prisoners, and launching new waves of repression, not from strength but from fear. And now for the first time in years, the international pressure is returning as well. The snapback mechanism has been activated, restoring UN sanctions that the regime thought it had escaped. Tehran is once again cornered, economically, politically, and diplomatically. The walls are closing in, not because of foreign armies, but because of the courage of the Iranian people and the persistence of the resistance that never surrendered. The Iranian regime spends tremendous time and energy demonizing one force above all others, the NCRI and the MEK. It doesn't fear exiled monarchs. It doesn't fear lobbyists. It does not fear those waiting for change to happen. It fears the MEK because this movement is organized. It has leadership. It has structure. It has a clear political program. And it has resistance units within Iran who are focused on confronting the Revolutionary Guards and repressive forces. And they're already preparing for a transition of power. A regime does not wage a disinformation campaign against an idea. It only fears what it sees as an existential threat. And the threat is this movement, the movement gathered right here in this room. It's all of you. And let me speak plainly about what the world must stop pretending. There's no path forward for Iran through some form of dictatorship. Neither is maintaining part of the current theocracy or the restoration of the monarchy. The Iranian people rejected dictatorship 46 years ago under the Shah, and they're not going back. That chapter of history is closed. Iran will not trade a turban for a crown. The real alternative doesn't come from nostalgia, foreign influence, or from inherited titles. A real alternative comes from sacrifice, from struggle, and from the legitimacy earned in the streets, in the prisons, and in the hearts of the people. And that alternative is the National Council of Resistance of Iran. I've met Mrs. Miriam Rajavi multiple times. I've asked her questions, I've listened to her vision, and I've seen her leadership. And although I haven't yet visited Ashraf 3, personally, I've studied what's been built there, and I know what it represents. A living example of what the Iranian resistance is capable of when it is free from the regime's violence. Like Ashraf 3, the future of Iran is pluralistic, it's modern, and it's rooted in universal values. One of the defining features of this movement, and one that terrifies the mullahs, is the central role of women. Not as symbols, not as supporters, but as leaders. The only revolution in the Middle East led by women is the Iranian resistance. In a regime built on gender oppression, the alternative is led by women and powered by thousands of women who command political offices and international campaigns. History will record this fact. When Iran rises, it will rise under the leadership of its daughters. Look around this room. This isn't theory. This is not exiled nostalgia. This is political capacity. This movement has everything it needs: the brightest people, utmost commitment, the unmatched track record, and the visionary and viable leadership. More than 1,000 people, experts, scholars, organizers, doctors, former political prisoners, activists, and the young generation are united here behind this message. NCRI and Iran has an alternative that has both the capacity and the intent to bring change in Iran. NCRI has leadership. Iran now has leadership. NCRI has a plan. Iran has that plan. The 10-point plan for a democratic, secular, non-nuclear republic. NCRI, Iran, they have a plan for transition after the fall of the mullahs, leading to a representative government. And that is why today matters. Because you are not asking the world to invent a solution, you are showing that the solution already exists. To all of you, you are showing that Iran does not need foreign boots on the ground or expropriation of money. You are the plan. And it's long past time for democratic governments to recognize the right of the Iranian people to overthrow this regime, hold Tehran accountable for the crimes against humanity, to stop legitimizing the regime through giving them concessions, and acknowledge that the NCRI is the legitimate representative of the Iranian people's struggle for freedom. Appeasement has failed. Reform is impossible. The only path to stability in Iran and in the region is the victory of the Iranian people and their organized resistance in ending the rule of theocracy in Iran. So let us say clearly and confidently, no to dictatorship, no turban, no crown. Yes to a democratic republic. Yes to the leadership of women in future Iran. Yes to the resistance units within Iran who are risking everything. Yes to the people of Iran who are closer to victory than ever before. And to those fighting in the prisons in Iran, in the streets, and in the resistance centers across the world, I say, we see you, we honor you, and we stand with you. Thank you. Until Iran is free.
پاتریک کندی: در تمام رویدادهای مجاهدین و شورای ملی مقاومت که شرکت کرده‌ام، افراد درخشان، توانا و با انگیزه ای را دیدم و به یمن فداکاری شما، این شما خواهید بود که فصل جدیدی را در تاریخ ایران در زمان آزادی ایران خواهید نوشت. پیام شما بلند و رسا است و من این افتخار را داشتم که تجسم این پیام را ببینم، چون به اشرف 3 رفتم و الگویی از ایرانی را دیدم که در آن افراد سخت‌کوش، روشنفکر و با پشتکار گرد هم می‌آیند و یک جامعه می‌سازند. گذار از یک تاریخ دیکتاتوری و حکومت دینی کار بزرگی است، اما شما به کاری که افراد در اشرف 3 انجام داده‌اند نگاه کنید. آنها با وجود تروری که هم در ایران و هم در عراق با آن مواجه بودند، به مبارزه ادامه داده‌اند. این همان الگویی است که در انتظار ایران است، زمانی که سرانجام آزادی را برای مردم خود بازپس بگیرد.
so much for that great, warm welcome. It's great to be with you. It's especially great to see so many distinguished American leaders. Secretary Pompeo, what a tremendous job he did in putting an end to appeasement when he was Secretary of State. And to have Speaker Bercow, I am so glad I'm not up immediately following the Speaker. Wasn't he terrific? A terrific job. And the Ambassador, once again, proved the point that in a pluralist society, we can finally see women reflected in the great government and representation of the people of Iran. And I just want to say to Professor Karibe, you have such humility, and it is truly inspirational to hear of your accomplishments and also know that you represent so many who were never able to realize the ambitions you had in Iran because of the mullahs. And think about where Iran would be today if people like you had been able to pursue your dreams and ambitions. Imagine a different Iran we would have today. But the good news is, you and your compatriots have never forgotten the fight, and you are ready to return to Iran and help Iran reestablish its leadership in the world. You know, I see Madam Rajavi, who I'm so grateful to know, and to know of her particular inspiration and that of NCRI and MEK. As has been said already, a movement cannot function if it doesn't have the process and the ability to manifest the changes it seeks. And by having the Young Women's Panel, and by having the Young Persons Panel, and by having the diaspora in technology and science, and by having the great diplomats, you are showing that there is a process here. There is a process whereby Iran can make the transition because it has the back room, as we say in politics. There are smart people in the back room. I've always relied on those people to help me in my life. And I can tell you, at every one of the events that I've ever been to at MEK, NCRI, I see brilliance, people capable, people who are motivated, and thanks to your sacrifice, you're going to be the ones who write a new chapter in Iran's history when Iran becomes free. So, since I first spoke to you, I now have to use glasses. That's how long I have been in this battle with you. I want to make the points that have been made before. So you know there's the saying, everything has been said, but not everybody has said it. But it's important for the broader public to hear from American political leaders once again what this is all about. And so that is why I want to repeat the points that have been made, that this is no ordinary conference. This is a moment of history, and congratulations to you for making this conference happen now, when we need to focus the United States administration and the United States Congress on what is happening in Iran today so that they do not lose focus on the opportunity that is before us to seek change in Iran. Your message is loud and clear, and I've had the privilege of seeing that message epitomized because I've been to Ashraf 3 and seen the model of what Iran can look like when people of industry and intellect and perseverance come together and build a community. If people wonder, can anyone organize? Can anyone put it together? This is a big job to transition from a history of dictatorship and theocracy. That's not a small job. But you look at what the people of Ashraf 3 have done, and they are an oasis. They have been fighting the fight in spite of the terror that they faced both in Iran and in Iraq. Let us not forget how they were repeatedly bombarded and killed and attacked. And you know what? They still played their music. They still recited poetry. They still celebrated one another. That is the kind of model that is in store for Iran when it finally takes back its freedom for its own people. And you know what else is the model for the future? It's the young people you've heard spoken of repeatedly at this conference. Because a movement cannot continue if it doesn't have people ready to take up the banner, to take up the model. And I can tell you a little bit about that in my family, because I had some really great role models. And so it's not an accident of fate that I am standing before you here, because it was my uncle, as President of the United States, who stood up in the Cold War. And you all know that famous speech, because when he delivered that speech, he wanted this to be seen not as an East Berlin fight. He wanted this seen as a fight for all humanity and all freedom. And that is why I'm with you today, because this is not an Iranian fight, even though it's the people of Iran who are waging it. This is a universal fight. And I would hope, if I were in Ireland, no offense, Speaker, and I had oppressors, and I was living in the kind of conditions that the people of Iran are living in today, that I would have more people than just my fellow Iranians speaking up for me, because I would want everyone to know that it's only by accident of birth that I am in Iran, because I am a child of God, and I could have been born anywhere in the world. And there, but for the grace of God, I am not seeing my 5 children today born into a country with the oppression of these mullahs. I am so grateful that I am not living in a country that will persecute and dehumanize my wife and my 3 daughters simply because they're women. I say to myself, I have an obligation to stand up for them. They need to know that they are not alone, because they could be any one of the rest of us. And you obviously have had families that have shared today about the brutality of this regime. And we are reminded all the time that it is the #1 country in the world for the imposition of the death penalty on their own people. #1 leader in killing their own people. What kind of leadership takes pride in the fact that they are known around the world to be the leading country in killing not only their own people, but killing the dreams and the hopes of their own people? And you think to yourself, in the modern way, when people think about Iran, they think, oh, there's a lot of oil there. But you listen to Professor Karib, and you look at the symphony orchestras, and you say to yourself, the biggest natural resource of Iran are its people. And the exciting thing, even in the midst of darkness and incredible oppression, when it would be easy for anyone to say, look at the 1988 massacre of over 30,000 martyrs. Look at the massacres ever since. Look at the number of people who are being arrested every day in Iran, who are being tortured and murdered and killed by their government. It would be easy if you were a young person to say, not for me. I've seen what this regime can do to people, and I am too afraid. But all of us have seen the courage and the strength of the young people across Iran as they stood up against that type of oppression. The courage means that all of you who have fought this battle for all of your lives can rest assured that no matter what, your struggle will carry on in the great determination and courage of all those young people who are standing up in the resistance movement all across the country of Iran today. Now, we have all been treated to a terrific sense of humor from Speaker Berkow about the Shah's son, because I don't need to add to that. It was brilliant. And it just shows the comedy that anyone could take this person seriously when they miss the whole point. The whole point is to free the country. What about that don't you get? It's not about you. It's about the people that you say you care about. And if you did care about them, the last thing you would choose to do is resurrect an old dictatorship when the argument for the future is a democracy. And that is why we need to follow the democratic example manifest in the 10-point plan of the NCRI and Madam Rajavi. Now, as I mentioned, in my family, I grew up thinking to myself, what is there left for me to do? I had these incredible people in my father's generation. One of them, my Aunt Eunice Shriver, started Special Olympics, which is now in over 190 countries around the world, uniting people and families who were previously shunned because their loved one had an intellectual and developmental disability. I grew up watching my Uncle Bobby with Martin Luther King. I grew up watching my father fight apartheid in South Africa, which no one ever thought, no one, to Secretary Pompeo's point, no one ever thought they'd see the end of that. And do you know what was so remarkable about that moment? Is that they had to go pick up the future president of the country from the jail. They had a motorcade, a presidential motorcade. And you know what they did? They drove it all out to the place where all the political prisoners were incarcerated. And they had to pick up Nelson Mandela and take him out of jail. And guess where? They drove him directly into the president's office. And he took over. So I just hope you know, as has been said before, these moments are going to happen. And I know you've been awfully patient and you've been waiting for too long. But don't give up, because the moment is coming, and it's coming soon. And all I have to say to you is I am so grateful, as the speaker said, for the opportunity to be on this road with you. My children literally have grown up watching MEK rallies. And I can't wait to take them to Iran, and then I will take my kids all around and hear all about the Persian people and the birth of civilization and the greatness of a culture and the greatness of a people. And I will be able to say, I was part of this fight to make sure that the ultimate dream that was embodied through millennia of a free and prosperous Iran ultimately was manifest. And I will be able to say that I was part of these great number of people who did the right thing. And you know what? It's not going to be one person who does this. It's all of us together. And in the words of my uncle speaking about South Africa, he said, each of us, each one of us, he didn't say all of us, each one of us can work to change just a small portion of events. And in the total of all those acts will be written the history of our generation. Each time, he said, a person stands up or acts to improve the lot of others, like those brave Ashrafis, like those brave young resistance fighters, like Madame Rajavi. Each time someone stands up, they send forth a tiny ripple of hope. And all those ripples coming together can create a current that can knock down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. So this is it. We don't have to do it all on our own. We've got everybody in this room, everybody in that room, and people all over the world who are joining in, because together we can finally achieve this goal of a free Iran. Thank you so much.